What's up, guys? Jeff Gamble, Indianapolis, Indiana, and I wanted to put this video together to let you guys know I've actually partnership with Crissi Peters. The reason we actually sat down together is obviously she's in the real estate business, very successful at what she does there. I know she works full-time as well, so she kind of is doing a bunch of different things. I shared this opportunity with her. She's like, wow, that would be an amazing lead generator for what I already do, plus it will help other people. Yes, this makes sense. We actually are involved in the credit repair industry. And real quick, we need a huge favor. We just want you to hear us out on what we're working on. So if you happen to run into the right person, you'd refer them to us. That's really all we're asking. So I want to give you a little bit of background on why credit, specifically with me. I've been kind of known in the industry as somebody who helps people with credit. The reason being is I made absolutely every mistake almost that you could make growing up. I got married at 19 while I was in college, and I decided to go self-employed while I was in college and quit school. You can imagine how well that went over because my mom's a school teacher, elementary ed, and my dad's a college professor. So I came home and I'm like, hey, I'm going to quit school and do the self-employed thing. And they were like, they were pissed. I mean, that's really what they were mad. And they were mad for a long time. But I did it anyway, and I started making good money, but exactly what their fear was happened. I got sick, I went to the doctor, I was like, no problem. Then I went to the hospital, and then they ran some tests, and then I found out I had cancer, unfortunately. I ended up in the hospital, I ended up with 2 major surgeries, I ended up with 6 months of chemotherapy. Yes, I did make it. Obviously, I'm making this video right now, but I owed everything. Because I had no insurance. So after I got out, after the hospital stays, after ICU, it was ugly. It was like, over $250,000. But I'm like, I don't want to throw in the towel. I was like, I'll fight my way out. I'll find a way to make more money. And my answer to paying everything off was real estate. I was like, I'll go into real estate. I'll start buying and selling homes, whatever we got to do. I ended up watching this late night TV show called Charlton Sheets, No Money Down. Many of you have probably, saw that as well if you were over the age of 35. Late night TV was on, so I ended up, doing that, and I started buying and selling houses, and I was pretty successful at it. In 36 months, I ended up buying and flipping about 18 homes. I ended up with a real estate company. I ended up bringing on 15 people to my team. Things were looking good. We were selling houses. Money was flowing in. I was like, yes, I'm going to pay all this off. And then 2007 and 8 happened. It was ugly. It began with the banking industry falling apart, and then the mortgage industry, and then a builder, calls us and is like, hey, we're not going to be able to pay you on these 9 deals. The 9 deals added up to almost $70,000 in commission. So I was like, that is not good. And eventually it all collapsed. I ended up with, just every credit problem you could possibly have. Repossession of a car, had to give up my house, had foreclosure, had credit cards, had utility companies harassing me. Eventually, I ended up in front of an attorney. And the attorney's like, look, you have these 3 choices. Number 1, you can fly somewhere we can't find you. And that sounded really good at the time, but I didn't choose it. Number 2, you can win the lottery, but maybe more than once, because when he added it all up, he's like, well, this is really interesting. He's like, usually we don't see individuals that are almost $3 million in debt, but that's kind of where you're at. So you're so deep, it doesn't matter if you have a job or not. There is no payment plan for this. So, I'm going to suggest the 3rd option, which is file bankruptcy, wipe it all out, and start over again. And unfortunately, that's what I had to do. I ended up having to file Chapter 7. It was ugly, like 38 things on my credit. I filed, I wiped it all out, and the day out of bankruptcy, I ended up picking up the phone and calling a friend of mine in the mortgage business. I'm like, hey, Brian, I need you to pull my credit. I need to tri-merge. I need all 3 bureaus. And he was like, why? Are you already starting to buy a house? I'm like, no, I just want to start working on my credit and get back together. I had developed a 6-step system that I give away for free. Anybody can use it, just to put your credit back together. And I used that, and I walked through those steps, and what ended up happening is 7 months after I pulled my credit right out of the bankruptcy, 7 months after the bankruptcy, Brian pulled my credit again. And I said, hey, would you pull it? And he's like, really? It's only been 7 months. And I was like, look, I did these 6 steps. I think I'm good. And he's like, where in the are you? And I was like, well, I'm over here at Starbucks. And he's like, I'm coming to meet you. He's like, how did you do this fast? Your credit score is a 691, a 7, it was just over 700, and a 729. He's like, I've never seen anybody do that fast. So we sat down and I ran him through these 6 steps, and he's like, man, you need to sell this program. There's a lot of people out there who would buy it. So we looked at that, but it didn't make sense to sell the program. It made sense to give it away and really help people. Imagine that in America. But that's what I ended up doing. That's how I've helped a lot of people, and that's how I was known in the industry. So my friends this last December in 2017 came to me and said, hey, we have this credit repair company that we just heard about, and we want you to evaluate it and look at it. And anytime anybody comes to me and says, hey, would you do me a favor? I want you to look at what I'm doing. You know, just tell me what you think, or if you can refer me to somebody. Anytime somebody does that the right way, I'll always look. I was like, yeah, of course. So they said, look, the company we're working with is called FES. They're a credit repair company. I was like, never heard of them. He's like, it's Financial Education Services. I'm like, cool. He's like, they're 14 years old. They're out of Michigan, Farmington Hills, which is just a suburb of Detroit. I was like, okay, I know where that is. And he's like, traditionally, for the last 10 years, they've just been regularly advertising. And about 4 years ago, they started an outside sales force, but the outside sales force took off in Georgia and Florida. So there's really nobody representing this in the Midwest, which is probably why you haven't heard of it. I was like, okay, that makes sense. I said, what do they do? They said, outside of credit, they've actually partnershiped with a lot of other services, and they put all those services together into one package. I'm like, okay, so what are we talking about? They said, well, credit repair is number one. The second one is they have credit attorneys to help out with litigation and payment plans. 2, they have a credit builder program that shows you basically how to get credit, how to build it, and how to increase it. 3, there's a program called Smart Credit. Smart Credit is like Credit Karma. It tells you your scores and what's going on and how that works. I was like, all right. 5 is LifeLock. LifeLock is the #1 identity theft program in the world. Most people know what LifeLock is, so I won't go into it. 6, they have something called Debt Zero. Debt Zero is like a spreadsheet program. If you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, it's like the snowball technique, how to get out of debt faster, basically. It's a program, shows you how to do it, education. You can call in, ask questions. Next, they have My Care Plan. My Care Plan actually gives you your will and your trust. Most people should have it. I'll tell you, most people don't have it statistically, but they do that and teach you what to do and what to put on it and how to put it together. The next is something called Financial Lockbox. It is a spreadsheet of every single document you'd ever need to start over. I mean, right now we have so many like documents and passcodes, and it's basically a place to put all of that: social, birth date, you know, life insurance policies, financials, everything in one place. So in case you'd be overseas, if you travel, or you're in another state, or your house, you know, there's something that happens, tornado, natural disaster, somebody breaks in, fire. I know that's awful to say, but you know, stuff does happen like that. You can press a button and get all this documentation back at one time. So it comes with a passcode and a beneficiary, so that way somebody can get to this information. Kind of just a good safety net. The next things they do are more about saving money. They have a website that is discounts on shopping. They have a website that's discount on travel, and they have a website that's discount on prescriptions, anywhere between 15 to 85%. And there's something called Your Family Mint, which is basically teaching you about how to save money, retirement, long-term, that kind of thing. And we're not financial planners by any means. It just gives you information on how to contact the right people to get all that set up. So with that being said, I was like, okay, this sounds cool. What is the price? And they're like, it's $89 a month. It's month to month, and there's a one-time $99 startup fee. So I'm like, okay, that's actually decent. I was like, wow, is that per, like, it's per person. I was like, okay, it's per person, because obviously it's tied to one social. So if you're married, you'd both need it. So it's $188 to start and $89 a month. I'm like, okay, how fast does it work? And they said, well, it's all automated. It's a click-through system. Once you enter yourself into the back office, it says, do you want to get started? And you just click yourself along the way, pulls your credit, asks you if you want to get started. Once your credit's up, it shows you what's negative. It says, do you want to dispute? Yes. And it mails you a packet in the mail, and you just follow the instructions. I mean, literally, it's just a signature. The packet in the mail is already filled out the right way. I did it myself. Got my packet with my three letters to the 3 different credit bureaus. Everything was all pre-written. All I had to do was sign the 3, put them in an envelope, and mail them out. Put a stamp on them. That always helps. And here's what happened with me. I sent it out kind of late December, and at the very end of January, it's about 40 days later, I ended up getting an alert on my phone that says your credit score has now increased 41 points. Here's why I was excited. First of all, 41 points, yes, I had decent credit to begin with, but now it's much better. What really excited me is that it was automated. Automating meaning I didn't need to talk to a single individual the entire time. I just clicked through their website and it worked. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of other people who will need this. So after I got all the information back from the credit bureaus and looked it all over, and I was like, not only is it moved here, I went on Smart Credit. It had moved in Smart Credit. I then went on to my Capital One account. I'm pretty skeptical. I went on my Capital One account and it increased there. I was like, wow, this is across the board. It really did work. So then I was like, okay, I called my friends back. I'm like, how do you market this? And he's like, look, there's basically 4 kinds of people. Number 1, people who just need the service. I'm like, yeah, I get that. He's like, number 2 is people who sell to people who need the service. And he's like, the people we're talking about are, people who need credit repair. He's like, inside sales rep, you basically sit at home, tell the story, tell what happens. If they need it, you send them the website link and they sign up. I'm like, okay, that's pretty decent. Inside sales rep, part-time, spare time. Even I work with silent partners. Sometimes people just refer it to me. We also can set up corporations. We can set up a real estate company, a mortgage company, an auto dealership, a tax accountant. We can set up people who, financial planners who, obviously run across people who have credit issues, bankers. We can set up the entity itself. And then the third type of person we're looking for is a recruiter trainer. That's somebody who's going to help us build a sales force. Like I said, this has only been around 4 years. They're looking for reps in every single state, similar to an insurance, similar to a real estate agent. You can work 1 day a month. You can work 30 hours a day. I mean, it doesn't matter. Most of the people who are working this are either spare time, part-time, or silent partner, meaning they're just referring it to us and we're getting it going from there. So guys, that's what we're looking for is those different types. If you know of anybody that we can help, if you know of anybody that we can put this together for, we just appreciate you watching the video. And if you need help, call Crissi right away. Say, hey, I need help with this. What do I do next? And if you have questions about how the money works, you want to sit down, look at working with us, just have her get me on the phone and we'll set up a time to do that. We'll answer all your questions. I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much.